All right, welcome back to another episode of the Karter Cast. I'm your host, Karter Baughan. With me, as always, Chase. No Connor today. It's a two-man show. We're doing usually we've been once a week lately during the playoffs. We want to do twice a week right now because we're in the midst of it. We had Game 6 tonight in Minnesota. Denver, awful game. I was going to say great game. It was terrible. It was one of the worst games. I think it was the worst game of the playoffs. It was super entertaining. Ant went off. We'll get into that. We'll get into everything else. We'll quickly go through each of the playoff series, and then we'll do some NBA draft stuff at the very end. Shorter pod today, but before we get into the show, we are brought to you by SeatGeek. Download the SeatGeek app or go to SeatGeek.com for $20 off your first purchase. Use code KarterCast, KarterKast. $50 minimum purchase required. Terms and conditions do apply. Download the SeatGeek app or go to SeatGeek.com to get $20 off your first purchase using code KarterCast. Going to Rays Red Sox next week. Going to use code KarterCast. Get $20 off my tickets. Can't wait. Hopefully, the problem is I might be sitting, I might be playing because Rays tickets, freaking, they're not going to be $50. I'm gonna have to get like the court side or the whatever. The home plate in the box with all the unlimited food, steak and lobster, just to reach the $50 minimum for the promo.
Yeah. That'd be 30 because you get that $20 off. Sounds like a good deal to me.
So I'm going to the Tropicana on sometime next week or whatever. And then and then the last ballpark I've been to was the Oakland Coliseum. So legitimately the two worst ballparks in the country, as I'm told. Oakland was awful. So, quick story time before we get into the NBA games, because everyone wants to hear about me at a stupid baseball game. Orioles, A's, August, typical. Actually, it was a decent crowd for an A's game. I think it was like a jersey giveaway or something. Anyhow, driving into the arena, that's where Fox News is getting all of their content. It was crazy. Homeless encampments for miles. You're like, whoa, like. Really opens your eyes when you're living in somewhere like Utah or even North Carolina or wherever you're living. It's crazy out in Oakland. And we're at the stop sign, we're at the street light or whatever, and this lady, she's just freaking out, like banging the concrete. You're like, what's going on? All of a sudden, just rips off all of her clothes and just starts chucking stuff and slamming the concrete. She's butt naked running into the street, probably on fentanyl, and you're like, holy crap. I got the full Oakland experience. But then going to the game, I'm like, all right, I got to go take a whiz. And then I'm taking a whiz. They have the troughs or whatever, so it's not the typical urinals. It's just, hey, here's a bucket, pee in it. Everyone's seeing. Yeah, it's a disaster. Carolina still has those for some reason at the Dean Dome. It's like NASCAR. Anyhow, sitting there, obviously bathroom myself, so that's good, whatever. And then I look to my left underneath the stall, some kind of rodent. Pretty sure it was a possum. It was possum or raccoon or something like that. In the stall next to me. The lights hardly worked in there. It's a disaster in Oakland. So, funny story, but going to the two worst ballparks back-to-back. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see Tropicana. I don't think it'll be worse than Oakland.
Did the A's win? How was the game? Do you remember anything about it?
No. I showed up in the bottom of the fifth. I showed up in the bottom of the...
How much was that ticket?
I think it was like $5. Yeah, because you spend $5 and you're like, dude, I'll just show up at the bottom of the fifth. I don't like going to 9 innings of baseball anyways. It's pretty tough for me. Like, it has to be a really entertaining game, or like I gotta have money on the game or have fun with it. Who knows? But
sure.
Yeah, no, I don't like 9 innings of baseball. By the way, Orioles won like 15-2. I mean, it was just crank home run, whap, just nonstop. Anyhow, let's get into the show. Let's talk basketball. We got too much time to talk about baseball. Limited basketball. One quick point before we get into the actual game tonight. You texted me about this too. Very, very sad that if the Knicks win tomorrow, this is our last. Or yesterday was our last doubleheader. We're done with doubleheaders. It's single games from here on out. That's very sad because a lot of these games have been kind of crap. Like tonight, you're watching it, blowout, get my heart ripped out by the Canes. It was a terrible sports watching night.
It was bad. But I think these playoffs have been pretty good. Like, we've always had one good one a night. Usually it's like Knicks Pacers, always a good game. If they don't, then like Thunder Mavs are picking it up. I mean, T-Wolves Nuggets have been good. But no, this is sad. Like, this is the end of an era. I mean, those first 2.5 weeks of NBA playoff basketball, some of the best of the year. But now, one a day, and then sometimes when that first break hits, Carter, the first day where there's no games.
That first day, and you're like, ooh, it's only baseball and the Edmonton Oilers are on. I'm gonna pass.
What do we do?
Yeah, that's gonna be that. We'll probably just have to like talk to our wives and
date night.
Yeah, we're like, oh crap, I gotta watch The Bachelor. There's another season of The Bachelor on. I thought this thing was over. Every time, some way, somehow, I don't know how, but no matter what, The Bachelor is always on. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's true. They have like 5 different shows now.
Yeah, they have golden, young, Latinx. There's so many bachelors now. It's insane. Let's get into the actual basketball, though. Denver Timberwolves, the game stunk. Timberwolves won by 45 points or 35 points tonight, whatever. Or 45? 45.
45.
45. 115-70. Just a gross game in the second half. Timberwolves, it was weird because typically the Nuggets are the slow starters, and they came out of the gates kind of hot, 9-2. Next thing you know, 27-2 run, and the Timberwolves are just firing in all cylinders. Important things from the game tonight. Cat came out assertive early. Rudy Gobert came out assertive early, and Anthony Edwards was not in. He was great early, and then that run spurred everything. I think the key was, you mentioned it throughout this series, is that stopping Jamal Murray is actually how you stop the Nuggets. And also, Cat not getting into dumb fouls and also being assertive was the difference tonight. Those two things is really what took it off. Anthony Edwards only had 27. Yes, he only played 2.5 quarters, but still, I mean, Cat and Murray playing like crap was the difference.
It was. And really, I was waiting to see this defense again. We saw it in game 2, and we were all like, this might be one of the best defenses we've ever seen. And then all of a sudden, in 3, 4, and 5, they disappeared. They completely changed the game plan. And we were all confused, and the Nuggets took advantage of it big time. But Timberwolves came out on fire defensively. I mean, the things they were doing to Jokic, where they would let him get the ball, they'd come double with the guard, he'd pass out, they'd rotate real quick, bring in NAW, he rotates out. Mike Conley's getting in there. They were just pestering him the whole night. Nuggets couldn't hit shots, which is never going to help, right? But the way that they handled Jokic was impressive. He still has his numbers because he's Jokic. But then being able to handle Murray is that big thing we talked about. And tonight, it obviously wasn't anyone's game on the Nuggets, and sometimes you just have crap shooting nights, and this is one of those nights. But the Nuggets scoring 70 points is outrageous. That's insane. In today's NBA, holding anyone to 70 points is crazy. But the defending champion, Nuggets, who had just, gone on a tear for 3 straight, really, really interesting game. Really interesting game.
Yeah, it's interesting because also, it's tough to figure out how I feel about this. Because also, I don't understand why Jokic still played so much. He ended up playing 35 minutes tonight. Sit these guys. You're done. Let it go. Just sit these guys, especially because how many minutes Murray ended up playing? Still 32 minutes. That. We saw the Tony Jones tweet. His calf is a problem, it seems like. There's no liftoff, and you could kind of see it throughout the game tonight. How does this make you feel going into Game 7? Because I think it's very, 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 very easy to have a bad taste in your mouth after this one. But we've seen they can just... I mean, we saw from Game 2 to Game 3, this is kind of similar to what we saw in Game 2. Are we going to see the same Denver team transition and say, all right, we're stepping up to the plate? It seems like they're just the classic, turn in your homework at 11:58 p.m.
Yeah, they're just pulling out of their butts. But when they do, they're really good. That's the thing about them, right? I mean, the big thing for me, I'll give you 2 things how I feel about this. One, I'm a little worried about the Nuggets. We weren't for some reason after they won these 3 games because we're like, oh, okay, this is the Nuggets, right? They're back. But this one, Carter, like you mentioned, they didn't sit anyone. They weren't really punting this game. They left their guys in for a while. They obviously came out determined to go in there and get a win. With the way that they started, the way that they were looking to score and attack early. I think they tried to win this game. Obviously, things changed, halfway through the third when they were just getting smoked in your thing. But it's not like the Nuggets came into this with intentions to kind of take it easy. They really wanted to win it, and they got exposed tonight again, much like they did in Game 2. But the thing about it, it is the Nuggets, and we like to talk about this. But my other thing is from a perspective of a Boston Celtics fan, I'm feeling pretty great right now about both these teams, both prospects, because one, they're beating the heck out of each other right now.
Yep.
And they're worn out, and the Nuggets especially are getting tired, a little banged up. T-Wolves are staying pretty healthy, but still, these are miles being put on Ant, on Gobert, on Cat, who haven't had a long playoff run in any of their careers except for maybe Gobert, right? He's been to second round, right? None of these guys have gone deep into the playoffs. Nuggets have, they've been there, but now you have Murray dealing with his calf. You have point guards banged up still with, KCP, although he's been playing pretty well. So as a Celtics fan, I'm looking at the finals right now. I mean, and their whole path in general, they've just been blessed. They're so lucky here. And we'll see what happens with Denver in Game 7, obviously. And they're going to come out hot, and that game's going to be awesome. And Denver's not going to roll over like this. That's for dang sure. But you got to feel good if you're the Boston Celtics right now.
That's what I was going to ask you, because Connor mentioned this on our preview when we were doing this series, and he said, doesn't this kind of feel like the NBA Finals a little bit? And I was going to ask you that. Does Game 7 on Sunday, Timberwolves Nuggets, feel like the NBA Finals?
No. Not. It feels like the Western Conference Finals. I can say that pretty confidently. But I'm a Boston fan, so you can take this as a grain of salt, but I'm trying to be objective. Boston hasn't looked amazing, but they haven't been getting cooked like this, right? And it's obviously they've played inferior opponents, but Boston's been able to rest, stay healthy for the most part. Porzingis hopefully coming back, right? They've been able to take it easy and really waltz through these playoffs. And Minnesota and Denver are not only tearing each other apart, they're also just generating some of the best film a team could have if you're playing one of these teams, right? You have blowouts on either side. You have close game finishes. You have bad Ant games, good Ant games. You have bad Murray games, good Murray games. Like, you're seeing it all here, and you're able to kind of get a feel of what these teams are actually doing. And we'll see what happens when they go into the next round, whether they face Dallas or OKC. But I don't know why everyone's writing out the Celtics right now. And so I wouldn't say Game 7 is the finals at all. I would take whoever wins that one to go to the finals and face most likely Boston, barring anything crazy unexpected. But when it comes to that final matchup, Boston versus whoever, you're going to have a tired team in the West, no matter who comes out. And you're going to have a pretty fresh Boston team, minus Porzingis, although he's been able to sit and rest. He's been kicking it back. It'll be almost a month before he'll see game action again in those games.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily the NBA Finals, just because, to be honest, if it's the Nuggets, I think I still think the Nuggets beat the Celtics. I do. I still think we'll get to that. We'll talk about that one a little bit later, but I just think the Nuggets have that experience of being there and winning the finals. I think that matters more. But if it's Minnesota versus Boston, I would probably lean towards Boston in that series, but who effing knows, like, with that exactly. But now if Minnesota wins on Sunday, I think Minnesota versus Dallas is actually a more intriguing series than people. I think a lot of people are going to write off Dallas and be like, Anthony Edwards, this is his time. This is his Jordan moment. This is, his 90 or whatever, 91, 92 Jordan moment where he's going to win his first ring. He's going to sleepwalk past the Mavericks. The Mavericks could very well be playing in the NBA Finals this year.
They could. They haven't given me a lot of reasons to hate the Mavericks. They've had some stinkers where Luka hasn't played well. In fact, he hasn't really had a good series, right? A good playoffs even. And yet here they are in control of this series against the number one seed in the West. They blew that game with the free throws, and that's obviously a concern, but they've, Derek Lively's been able to step it up when OKC's been trying to foul him, and they've hit them since. I like what Dallas has got cooking, and this is with a subpar Luka right now. And if you're Minnesota, you're heading into this series. You just played the defending champs you're coming off the high of beating them, but it took you 7 games, right? You, like we talked about already, are fatigued, and you're in your first deep playoff run ever for just about every single player on that team. And now you got to go to Dallas, right, at least 3 times, and play a team who has been able to figure things out with role players, who can hit threes, who is athletic enough to keep up with you, and has the bigs to somewhat match up with what Gobert offers, which he doesn't offer anything offensively, but with Cat offers offensively. And you can kind of eliminate Gobert as a defensive presence by going small and just stretching out the floor. So I'm with you. I think that's a super intriguing matchup. However, if Denver goes, right, our minds automatically change. And we're like, okay, well, Denver's going to take care of Dallas.
Especially if it's Denver versus OKC. I could very well see that being a sweep. Gentleman's sweep. I think that's Denver in 5. But let's close up on the Nuggets-Timberwolves series real quick. Score predictions for Game 7 Nuggets-Timberwolves. Go.
I think it's going to be close no matter what. I think Denver pulls ahead and they win this game because home court experience, defending champs, Jokic, everything. But Minnesota keeps it close. I'm going to go Denver 107, Wolves 102 final.
I'm going to go Denver 105, Wolves 100. And I think Murray hits the dagger to pull away, and then Denver gets a couple free throws at the end. I think experience comes out in this game. I know Murray's calf is not quite there, but home court experience. I don't think we're gonna there's not gonna be a moment where the Nuggets aren't up for it. They're not gonna give up once in this game, and I think we see a vintage Jokic game. I think we see a 35, 15, and 12 from Jokic, and then I think we see some big time shots from Jamal Murray. Anytime it's a big game, Jamal Murray typically steps up. So I would expect the same in Game 7. So let's move on. OKC, Dallas. We touched a little bit on this, but Mavs are up 3-2 going into Game 6 tomorrow night. Or tomorrow night, Saturday? Whatever. It's sometime. Game 6, Dallas up 3-2. Games in Dallas. I'm assuming we're both, you started with the Thunder, and then you switched to the Mavs very quickly. I think right after the podcast got posted, you said, I want to switch my pick. I want to be on the Mavericks.
Yeah, I was texted you.
Yeah. And I've been on the Mavericks this whole time. And we did the podcast after Game 4. And then you and I both said, I still like the Mavericks here. Connor was on the Thunder. But Game 4 was an all-time fluke. It really was. That team is not shooting 50% from the free throw line in multiple games. And that truly was the difference. Now, was Shai Gilgeous awesome? Yes. And all credit to the Thunder. Chet made some big-time free throws, all that. They absolutely deserve it, and they got a gritty win. But that was a fluke. But Game 5 was not a fluke. Luka finally coming out with that vintage game of having a 31-point triple-double. That's who he is. Kyrie didn't even have that great of a game. He actually played pretty poorly for the most part, and they still won fairly handedly.
Not to mention you got a back to earth PJ Washington game where he stepped up big late. Now, he hit some big shots. But
Derrick Jones is on Mars.
That's right, exactly. That's the thing about Dallas is they have this group of role players who I personally love because if one of them doesn't step up, I know one of them will. Derek Lively's the most consistent guy on the court where I just know what I'm getting from him, and for most of the part, it's really good stuff. It's nothing amazing. He's not going to change the game. He's not going to swing it by 10 points, but he plays his style and he knows what he's doing. And Luka likes guys that know what they're doing and know where to be and what they got going on. OKC, they're so tantalizing. They're so young. They have so much talent. But what I'm seeing from them, and this is the most basic answer ever, it's a lack of experience. It's these guys who don't understand what playoff basketball is. It's different, Karter, and older guys know that. And what OKC's been doing is relying on everything that got them there in the regular season, right? They're playing free throw ball, that's for sure. Jalen Williams thinks he can just get to the rim wherever he wants now. Shai's hunting fouls, Lou Dort's flopping everywhere. It's not how it works in the playoffs. Officiating changes. Defense gets way more intense. They don't give you the benefit of the doubt on the calls. And OKC is suffering for it. I don't know, savvy veteran Dallas team. Luka knows how to, manipulate officials better than anyone. And you have Jason Kidd, one of the best offensive minds ever in the game, who's better than Mark Daigneault, right? Coaching the team. And so you have these guys who are just, it's really playing mind games with OKC, because I think top to bottom OKC might be more talented, right? But Dallas has outperformed them the entire series and has been able to show them what it's like to play playoff basketball. And OKC will learn and they'll get better, and they're here early, and there's no reason to freak out if you're a Thunder fan, because you have these guys for a long time. But it's growing pains right now for OKC, and it's not working out for them.
Yeah, and that's it. There's no reason to freak out if you're an OKC fan. This is a great season. Great season. And the other thing, too, is I think a big part of this, you're talking about, SGA is still going for those fouls and whatnot. And, some games he's getting the call, some games he isn't, whatever. But he's also hitting big-time shots, man. Like, every mid-range turnaround, like, it's almost Jalen Brunson-esque. It's not as impressive because, he's bigger, more athletic and whatnot. But, I mean, he's shooting a ridiculous percentage from the mid-range. And they're difficult shots. There is never a moment where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has an open shot. Not one. And credit to Dallas for that, too. But he's knocking him down. He's playing phenomenal. Jalen Williams is the one that you're like, okay, man, step up. And I'll be honest, man, this is a really concerning Chet series for me, because there's two problems with the Chet thing. One, I think he's played fine in his role. I think it's just physically he's just not quite there to be a 5. But then it raises the question, okay, how do you pair with Chet but not give up rebounding, but also not give up spacing on the floor? And I think that's going to be a really big issue for OKC going forward, because you can say, okay, let's follow the Timberwolves model. Let's go get Jared Allen and bring him in here and have a little Twin Towers thing. But that ruins the spacing for SGA, because SGA kind of needs shooters around him to space out the floor, so he has more space to drive it into the lane and get calls and get those mid-range shots that he typically likes. I don't know what you do about this, because their rebounding is horrific, and that's been a huge reason why they're in the position they are. And we all knew this going into these series. We said OKC is going to lose because of their rebounding and also lack of experience. And that's what we're seeing. Those are the two main things. And I just think they sneaky have a little bit of a Chet problem. I think Chet's great. I think Chet's awesome. I don't think it's him necessarily, but just in that specific role, he's a sneaky difficult person to pair with.
He is. I think the big thing for him is a lot of mental things, right? This is his first year back from injury, and he's a scrawny dude. I don't mean no offense by that. We got to call it how it is. He's fragile.
But that's the problem, is he really can't play the 5 in this league. He has to play the 4, kind of in that Karl Anthony Towns role. But then how much, like, that just kind of ruins your spacing unless he becomes an elite 3-point shooter.
Right, and he's not there yet. And the problem, like, I think I was texting you, like, I want to see Chet expose some of these mismatches he gets, right?
Yeah.
The Dallas is so content letting PJ Washington guard that man, and Chet has, 7-8 inches on him. Like, you can do something there, and that's just a development in his game he needs to figure out and be willing to grab the rebounds, be willing to play inside, be willing to play dirty ball. And I don't think he's afraid of that. He just hasn't figured out the intricacies of it in the NBA, because it's different. This is his first year. So I agree with you 100%. I don't know if they have a Chet problem in the sense that they're looking to, like, let's fix him, more as they're just like, let's just let him develop. Let's teach him a few things. Let's get him some more experience. Because I think he can be an effective 5 who stretches the floor, and, he can play the 4 spot. He can even play 3 if you're willing to do that in your lineup, and you like the other Jalen Williams at the 5 and kind of have some freaky matchups there, right? But he needs to learn to play that physicality level of basketball that it takes. And his body's not built for it, right? But I think he gets there. Well, like I said, and you said, OKC's got time.
Yeah, and they also need shooters. They need shooters really bad. Like, you don't trust Lou Dort. Whenever Lou Dort is entering that Jay Crowder territory, of we're like, why is he shooting the ball right now in this big playoff game?
Right, and it's Lou Dort. He does the Marcus Morris thing where also he could go off, right? And you're like,
Yeah,
what the
that's
freak
the
is this
problem.
guy doing?
And then he gets a big head, and you're like, all of a sudden, you're like, no, dude, you can't have the ball with 2 minutes left in the fourth tie game. This ball goes to SGA. It goes to Jalen Williams, not you, dude. And so, but yeah, I just think that Chet problem. That was kind of my concern going into the draft that year. And look, and everyone's going to say, okay, well, Karter, you're a Duke fan. Of course you had Paolo one, but Paolo's he's the perfect NBA prospect. I mean, 6'10", he's so free. He's, 270 pounds? Like,
Super
this guy,
handsome.
he's so handsome. So handsome. But no, Connor and I did a segment back in January. It was, who would you take, Chet versus Paolo? And he said Chet. There's no way.
Yeah,
Chet will never be a number 2 on a championship team. He's going to be a number 3 on a championship team at best. Paolo can be a 1.
Yeah, I think Chet's ceiling, right, is I don't even think at Porzingis level because I don't think he's as good a shooter as Porzingis.
I think he can. I don't think he like play style, no, but the caliber of player Porzingis is where he's on that borderline all-star realm.
Yeah,
I think he's in that realm.
I agree.
But I don't think he's a bona fide every year 8-time all-star kind of deal.
No. And he just needs to figure out his place. And the NBA is changing, right? And he can be tall, right, and play outside, but he needs to learn exactly what that role is for him. And that's the biggest challenge with all these NBA players, especially these young guys. So
yeah, but great playoff experience, and that's going to matter a lot in the long run. Real quick on the Dallas front, Kyrie's kind of had he's just been really passive in these games. Anytime I've watched, he's, he'll have the mismatch he wants, and then he'll get to that spot where he likes to take those 6-foot floaters, and he's been passing out of it a lot and way too much, where he's almost getting scared to take those floaters more and more, and he keeps trying to force it into Gafford and Lively. Typically, it's worked, but I want to see Kyrie shoot more.
yeah, I agree. I think Kyrie kind of plays that game where he's like, okay, I'll score right now. Next 5 minutes are mine, and then he's be like, next 5, I'm not gonna do anything. And it seems to be he's doing that a lot lately, and sometimes he even does that with like games where he's like, this isn't I'm Luka, PJ, like take all the shots. I'm kind of gonna, facilitate the best I can, play tough D, but it's not my shooting night.
Yeah, and it's kind of like when he was on those Nets teams. I mean, we rarely got to see Harden, Kyrie, and Durant play together, but like all of those dudes would just be like, yeah, I'm checked out. It's that guy's turn. I'm gonna chill in the corner.
Right.
I just wish he would be a little more assertive because he's so freaking good, man. And we've had a non-crazy Kyrie season. It's been unbelievable. And that's why I really don't like – I know I said, Nuggets will probably kill either team, but I will have a hard, long look at the series odds if the Mavericks win, no matter who they play.
That's the thing.
If the value's there – then I'm probably taking the Mavericks. I'm not saying they're going to win, but if the value's there on the betting side of things, I really like the Mavericks.
That's the thing about them is they haven't unlocked their full potential. You don't have your best Luka right now, and you have Kyrie playing super passive. And if those two guys start being themselves again and Kyrie is aggressive and looks for shots, then that we need to start admitting to ourselves like this Dallas team could go to the finals, which I don't think we were ever like, okay, that's insane, but we never were like, yeah, sure, like Dallas could do it. They were never on anyone's radar as a contender, but now it's serious because they're going to get past OKC, and then we're going to see, like, what are these guys made of? Is Kyrie going to turn it on? Is Luka going to be amazing? And if they are, whoever's playing them's got to watch out.
That's what I wanted to. That's kind of what I wanted to ask you was, and I know I keep asking you this and a bunch, but Luka and Kyrie are probably 2 out of the 4 players I'd want with the ball in their hands at the end of games and left in the playoffs. I think it's probably not in order, but Murray, Jokic, Kyrie, Luka. Jalen Brunson. I think
Brunson.
I think I would. Who would you take out of that? I mean, those are the top 5 for sure, right?
It is. I think like it's crazy to say this, but because he's had 2 game-winning shots, but I would bump Murray for Brunson based on what I've seen
Really?
so far. I think Brunson's been able to do it like all game, every game. I think that matters because Murray's had some stinkers. Brunson,
But
he's had a
what do we think
couple.
about the thing is, Jokic is going to make the right play. I don't like the shot. I feel like I've never seen Jokic take a buzzer beater. I feel like he's just always made the right play at the end of a game. Like,
Right, which he always does. I think I'd put him 1 because I'm like, you don't have to shoot it, but if you can if you get the right shot, yeah, it's Jokic. Put the ball in his hand.
yeah, and he's not going to force something. He's still going to be calm and level-headed in that. But regardless, the Mavs have 2 out of the top 5 end-of-game guys you want in these playoffs, and it's going to matter because we're eventually. I keep saying this, but eventually we're not going to have blowouts every effing game in these playoffs. Eventually, we're going to have some close games, and that's going to matter. That's going to matter. We've seen it with the Knicks. Anytime it's been close, the Knicks have lost 1 close game this year. 1. And that was a lucky Nimhard shot in Indiana. That's
Right, well,
what
see,
it was.
Denver's the same thing, right? They're close games. Murray closes it out, right? Even these like Dallas Mavericks games, where I mean, it's not the best
only
example
one?
because they blew it with the free throws, and then this
Yeah, that's
last
what I was
game.
going to say. The only one was that game 4 that they lost. So
Yeah,
yeah, and then last thing, real quick, give credit to the Mavs front office because they took a huge gamble on Kyrie Irving, and they deserve a lot of credit, man. They kept, Kyrie's been level-headed. He's been awesome this year. They deserve a lot of credit for, taking that big swing because it's really worked out for them. Regardless if they lose in the Western Conference Finals or even to OKC, it's still worked out and been phenomenal for Dallas bringing in Kyrie Irving.
and making him happy, helping him out, and getting the right players for Luka. I mean, because these role players have been awesome. I love Dallas's bench, except for Tim Hardaway. But
Yeah, except for Tim Hardaway. Yeah, no, everyone's talking. Yeah, he's been getting memed to death online now.
yeah, my take from the last pod looks pretty good right now.
Looks very good. Looks very good. But anyhow, let's move on. Celtics cruise past the Cavs 4-1. Easy series for the Celtics. Donovan Mitchell. Let's go to the Cleveland side of things. I mean, the second the buzzer went out, all of a sudden, 5 leaked stories. Evan Mobley hates Cleveland and didn't want to get drafted here. Darius Garland says it's either me or Mitchell. I want to go to Minnesota. Donovan Mitchell's like, I love it here. I want to extend. Oh, but I also kind of want to leave. But I want to stay here. I really want to extend. But also, here are the 4 places I really would like to go. And then there's also Jared Allen was like, I'm not taking painkillers to play in these games. And apparently the Cavs were mad that Jared Allen didn't want to take painkillers. All this, and then JP Bickerstaff's probably getting fired. Then he's not, and then he is. It's craziness coming out of Cleveland right now. I can't believe we're still talking about the effing Cleveland Cavaliers at this point, even though they're eliminated. But it is an important part because I'll be honest, I'll just get my take off real quick. The Donovan Mitchell part of things, it's very clear what Donovan Mitchell is trying to do here. It is very, very, very clear. He's playing Cleveland like a fiddle right now. He is playing Cleveland like a fiddle. He wants to get that extension so he can get the max amount of money, and then 1 to 2 years from now, he's going to demand a trade to get out of there. But in the short term, they're going to trade away their guys like Darius Garland or Jared Allen or Evan Mobley to bring in someone like Brandon Ingram to make him happy, or to make him quote-unquote happy, be like, hey, look what all we did for you, Donovan. And then eventually, in a year to 2 years, after he signs his mega supermax extension, he's going to say, screw you guys, I want to go to Brooklyn. I want to go to L.A. I want to go to Miami. It's so clear what he's doing, and people are falling into this trap of, oh my gosh, Donovan Mitchell, he loves Cleveland. And then Donovan Mitchell's out here like, the media out here lying, F them. It's like, they're not lying. These media members are not lying. And then now his agent's putting out stuff to Shams and Woj, being like, nuh-uh, Donovan Mitchell loves Cleveland. And he's just using them as puppets, as they are always used by these agents. It's so clear what Donovan Mitchell is doing. He did this to the Utah Jazz, essentially. This is what Kevin Durant did to the Brooklyn Nets. This is what all these players are doing now. Donovan Mitchell's not the exception. He's not. Why on earth would he sit there and say, I love Cleveland? Unless they make some miraculous, huge trade to make themselves an immediate championship contender. And even then, when the Jazz were in the playoffs, you saw Donovan Mitchell quit on the court against the Dallas Mavericks with Rudy Gobert. He quit on the court. The same thing's going to happen in Cleveland until he gets to where he wants to go, which is a big market.
Exactly, Carter. Like, I was, we have a mutual Cavs fan. Shout him out.
Shout out.
Who we were like,
Andrew.
dude, that this is exactly what he did to Utah, and he wasn't buying it. And he's a Cavs fan, so like I get it. But where there's smoke, there's fire, Carter. All this stuff coming out the second the buzzer sound, and you're telling me everything's fine, happy, just peachy in Cleveland is not true, because all this stuff would not be coming out if so. Donovan Mitchell is pulling a Damian Lillard here, right? We're at the era in the NBA where signing papers and a contract doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything except your checkbook for the next 5-6 years, whatever you extend for. That's just really what it's come down to. And Donovan does not want to stay in Cleveland. And why should he, right? They don't have a particularly amazing team. If he really says he wants to win a championship, then it's not going to happen in Cleveland. There's nothing particularly redeeming about the city that's holding him there. He's got no ties to that place. He doesn't want to stay there. And he may sign, and Cleveland fans will be like, I told you. He re-signed for us. It's like, cool. Yeah.
But guess what? Next January, there's going to be rumblings where his agent's going to start leaking out there that, oh, by the way, Donovan Mitchell really likes Mikal Bridges in the Brooklyn Nets and really likes Pat Riley in the Miami Heat. It's so clear. Was doing this in Utah. He's doing it now in Cleveland. He wants to make the max amount of money. And then it's also going to put Cleveland in this horrible position because, like I said before, they're going to use draft capital and other assets to get a win now team that's definitely not going to be ready to win now, and they're going to give away solid assets to try and keep a guy happy like Donovan Mitchell, which Donovan Mitchell's probably not ever going to be a number one on a championship team ever as a 6'2", 6'1" guard. And it's just so clear. And the other thing is too, is like I don't know what the problem is in Cleveland, but there's clearly something wrong. I don't know if it's Bickerstaff. I think the coaches always use the scapegoat. In the NBA, I don't think the coach matters as much. I don't know if it's Garland. I don't know if it's Mobley. I don't know if it's Mitchell. But something weird's going on in Cleveland, and it really just feels like all these dudes are trying to say, it's my team, it's my team, it's my team. Get out. And then what's going to happen, like we said, is Donovan Mitchell's going to sign the extension. He's going to sign the max extension. They're probably going to trade Darius Garland and get some wing player back, like a Brandon Ingram or, I don't know, Miles Bridges type player. And then they'll trade Jared Allen. They're going to give up some picks and try and get someone else in. And they're going to maybe make an Eastern Conference Finals. And then he's going to bounce immediately. And then they're going to be left with, oh, crap, we have nothing, because also they're not going to get much in return on a trade like that, because he's going to demand, I only want to go to X, Y, and Z. And the other teams, if you're a team like the Washington Wizards, you're like, why would we trade for Donovan Mitchell when he doesn't want to come play here, when he's just going to try and force his way out the second we trade for him? So then you lose. The other teams have all the leverage. The Nets, the Heat, the Lakers, wherever he wants to go, have all the leverage. I think it's a disaster for Cleveland right now.
It really is. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I don't know what's like the next step for this franchise. Look, Donovan Mitchell's a nice player. Like,
yeah, he's great.
He could put up 50 any given night. He's very Paul George-y to me. Like, you'd be like, oh, that dude's game, his game is nice. He's never going to be the number one guy on a championship team. He's never going to take a team to the finals. Like, I don't care how smooth and nice his game is and how he can pop off for 50. That's just the player he is. He'll be all-stars. He can make All-NBA. But that's it. And it's not happening in Cleveland. That's for dang sure. And he knows that. So, Cleveland's in a tough spot. Go ahead.
Last thing about this, too, that I'll talk about Donovan Mitchell is, you mentioned last show, you're like, why the hell is he not playing? What's going on? What's wrong with his calf? Like, why? It's all of a sudden he can't play all of a sudden, and he misses these 2 games. It's clear. If he actually wanted to stay in Cleveland and win in Cleveland, he would have played. He would have gotten some injection. He would have done something to play in that game, in games 4 and game 5. But he knew they were going to lose, and he knows I can't screw up my future. I got to get this super mega max extension. I got to say all the right things in the media. I'm going to have my agent say all the right things, and then I'm getting the F out of Cleveland. It's what's going to happen. Unless, now the one saving grace is, what if for some reason LeBron does a homecoming?
That is the one thing that would redeem that team.
Cavs fans were probably like at a 10 out of 10 I hate this podcast scale, and then I mentioned a LeBron homecoming. It just turned into, this guy is on to something. He gets it. He gets it.
Yeah, if Andrew hasn't turned off the podcast already, then you'd love to hear this. No,
yeah, but
I
anyhow,
mean,
go ahead.
LeBron showed up to Game 4, or excuse me. Game 4. He was there.
Game 4, yeah. A little coffee and wine on the sideline.
Coffee, wine, water. Dude, does he have to pee a lot? Like, what's going on there? No.
I don't know.
Why did he go there? There was no reason to pop up to Cleveland other than, was he visiting family?
Is it like graduation for his I Promise school or something?
I think they didn't have any graduates. I'm just kidding.
Darius Garland. Darius Garland's probably getting traded. We don't have to do any more on the Cavs. I think that's good enough. Real quick, Boston. We've done a lot on Boston. We've talked a lot about Boston throughout these playoffs. Pretty much what we feel and know about Boston is out there, and we've said it a million times. Real quick, the only question I have about the Celtics is Boston not playing any close games so far in the playoffs and not having a single competitive game, is that a good thing or a bad thing for Boston going forward?
It's hard to tell, and there's a lot of ways you could spin it, right? Me as a Boston fan, I could look at any game and be like, that was really good for them. Like, that was awesome. So it's like, hey, they've blown everyone out. It's like, awesome, because they're better than them. They're playing inferior opponents, like they should.
Guys like Mitchell and all these dudes are sitting out. Jimmy Butler's not playing, that sort of thing. Yeah.
I think at this point in the playoffs, it's not a bad thing because they should have blown. If there was a close game, we'd be like, why was it so close with that Cleveland team, right? With Max Strus at the helm,
But then the weird part is just when they give up, when they lose by 24 to the Cavs or 15 plus to the Heat, and you're like, how did this happen? Like, that's the only problem where I'm like, why are these games not close? But
yeah,
you're right. It should be blowouts. It should be blowouts every game because, one, nobody's playing. They're so much better than these other teams. Like I said, I've said it a million times on this podcast, and we don't have to get much more into it, but I really just want to see the Celtics play one close game. Because whatever that close game is, it's going to be the narrative going forward because think about how important, let's say game 2 or game 3, Madison Square Garden, Jason Tatum hits a big-time dagger 20 seconds ago to beat the Knicks. That's your first close game. That's all that means so much. The Celtics need to win that first close game, and it needs to be Jason Tatum hitting that big shot or actually driving to the basket and not taking a fadeaway jump shot, but actually driving to the basket and hitting the game winner. I think if he hits that first game winner, the confidence is there, and he's just going to make every big shot. That's like my dumb basketball brain thinks.
Yeah, I think those close games will come next series. Whether it's Indiana, if they pull it off, because they just have a great home crowd, or if it's New York, which is most likely it's going to be, going to the Garden, they're not going to waltz in there and just blow out New York. They may eventually, but at least one of those games, right, is going to be something nice. And
at least we hope, man. We've had so many freaking blowouts.
We have.
Let's talk about Knicks Pacers real quick, and then we'll do NBA draft segment, and then we'll get out of here. Knicks up 3-2 over the Pacers. We have Game 6 this weekend, and then Game 6 tomorrow. Game 7 will be on Sunday. Like I said, Jalen Brunson, this has just been a ridiculous playoff run, like we've mentioned. Real quick with this series, talking about the Celtics real quick if they do meet up. Remember that Pacers-Celtics in-season tournament game? That was awesome.
It was.
If we can get more of those, then I'm all in. But I just don't know if that Pacers team exists.
They don't. I remember watching them, and I was like, what the freak is happening? Because Tyrese was hitting everything. Buddy Hield was picking the ball off the ground and like just chucking it up and it was going in. So the Pacers aren't doing something like that again, except for maybe like once or twice, right? In a series, they have the ability to have an insane shooting night, and then they have the ability to shoot 21% and poop their pants. I'll say this, from a Boston perspective, I think I want New York.
Just because of the legs.
Yeah, just the injuries and the fact that they're completely dismantled, and I think the vibes would be better.
Be honest with yourself. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. I think it's Pacers. You guys win in 5. Knicks 6. Weirdly enough, but I think like games 5 and 6, the legs are just so gone for the Knicks. You're like, hey, Brunson's got tired legs putting up 34 shots in game 6, game 5 kind of thing.
Yeah. And Brunson's getting switched on to like he got Drew tailing him full court, switches Derek White, switched Jaylen Brown, switched to Jason Tatum, and it's like what are you gonna do? I mean,
switch to Luke Cornett.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
The murder Cornett.
You just can't do anything. Speaking to the many Pacers fans out there, if you're a Pacers fan, does this playoff run somewhat scare you for the future going forward? Because it does feel a little Trae Young 2021 Hawks-ish, and it's also, okay, do we realize this is the ceiling for this team as a second-round playoff run, as Pascal Siakam, Tyrese Haliburton, and Miles Turner as our best guys?
Right. As a Pacers fan, you have to appreciate what's going on right now. You're having a lot of fun. Yep. Much more fun than you thought you would. But
I think that's in the back of your head.
Right. But this, you're also like, this is as good as it gets. Right? This is like the ceiling for this team. Like, I think being able to compete in the second round.
I think for this specific team it is, but I just don't think they're going to be blessed with such a miraculous run to the Eastern Conference Finals like this. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this. You got
That's what I'm saying.
The Bucks without Giannis, and then Lillard missed 2 games out of the series, and then you get to play the Knicks with, I mean, they're playing half their entire bench is the Westchester Knicks at this point.
Exactly. So if you're a Pacers fan, you're like, dude, this is awesome. I'm not going to feel this again for a while.
That's the problem.
Because it's never going to happen like this.
They traded OG and all this stuff for Pascal Siakam. It's just,
It's very It's Karter. Like, I'm trying to find the right comparison. I mean, I keep saying the 21 Hawks. That was a little bit different because that was just like, that was transcendent Trae, and it kind of feels a little like if you combine New York and Indiana, where you have Brunson doing his thing, you had Trae just going crazy, you had Ben Simmons seeing ghosts, right, in that Philly team. This Indiana team, I don't know what to say other than they're just like, you had fun, like you guys can make some shots, but that's it.
In Pacers fans' defense, the way I would go about this conversation, spin zone this if I'm a Pacers fan, is that the Pacers are competitive, while Tyrese Haliburton is at 40% confidence.
True. He's found it a little bit in this series. He's been talking his stuff, and he's had good shooting nights. And that's your one saving grace, right? Can Tyrese turn into some type of guy?
The in-season tournament Tyrese Haliburton.
Right.
What if that's just what he becomes? Every in-season tournament, he's just awesome. I mean, the best player out there. But then the NBA playoffs, he's just like, he looks like a ghost out there. You're like, where's the in-season tournament, Tyrese Haliburton? We need you. We need you. It turns he becomes like Game 1 DJ Augustine. You knew you were gonna get a legendary Game 1 out of DJ Augustine for the Magic every year, but in-season Tyrese Haliburton becomes a legend.
No, it's so true. For both these teams, Indiana, it's really like, this is a fun series. We've had some really fun games with these teams, but it's also kind of like, man, like if you're a Knicks fan, you're thinking, man, if we were freaking healthy, dude, like what could we be doing right now? What could potentially do to this Boston team who's been known to kick themselves in the pants and shoot themselves in the foot sometimes? Like, do we have a shot there? And if New York's healthy, I think they do. And if you're Indiana, you're like, okay, we kind of got lucky here, and we're still not going to get past New York, even with them hurt, right? What are we going to do? And so, both these teams are made for some great basketball. They're both in the wrong time zones. New York unlucky, Indiana lucky, just not there yet.
All right. Yeah, I 100% agree. But that's it for the playoffs. Last thing we'll do here. This should go decently quick. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. So number one pick. So there's been a lot of discourse on NBA social media right now discussing about how the number one overall pick is just such a crapshoot this year. On Ryan Russillo's podcast, I think he mentioned something about like it's basically the number one pick is essentially the same asset as Tobias Harris. I think that's a stretch because Tobias Harris is cheek. So let's be honest.
Yeah.
Let's call it
To be fair to Russillo, he said that someone in the league told him that.
Yeah, and it was on his show. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were comparing. They're like, it's like if the draft started at around like 7 or 8. Like that's what the vibe with this number one pick.
It's 100% true. This is the start at 7, 8, 9, 10 kind of draft, and so it's horribly bad. So the exercise we're gonna do, we're gonna name a player. So for example, if I would say, okay, would you rather have LaMelo Ball or the number one overall pick? But you have to include the player's contract, I believe. I think you should have to include so you can't just say Bradley Beal their number one pick. Obviously, I'd rather have Bradley Beal, but I don't want to pay Bradley Beal $55 million, so give me the number one pick.
Right.
So we'll go about this. You want to start off first? Give me a name.
Yeah, I'm gonna do this thing. I was doing my list, right? And there's different tiers to this. I only made 2 though, so I won't go too crazy. This first 3 guys, I was like, maybe this is a conversation, but for the most part, the Hawks would be like, yes, we'll take him. Okay. All right, I want to see if you agree. One is Cade Cunningham.
Yes.
You'd be like, the Hawks are like, yes, we'll take Cade 100%. Give me that.
I'd give up 2-3 first round picks.
Yeah. Mo Wagner. I think the Hawks are like, yeah, we'll take Mo Wagner. Take the number one. Franz.
Oh
Mo.
My gosh. Oh my god. I thought that was gonna be like tier 5 Mo Wagner. No. Franz, obviously, yeah.
Yeah. And then Mikal Bridges, right?
Yeah.
Hawks are like, I mean, he's got a few years, but it's
I didn't have
we'll take
anyone on my list. I didn't have anyone near that caliber.
Yeah. Well, that was my thing. I was like, these are the guys that are so obvious. The Hawks would be like, yes. Okay. Now we're getting to my other group. All right, and you can just tell. You just tell me what you think.
Okay.
Tyler Hero.
Oh, that's a great one to start out. Give me the number one pick, only because if I get Tyler Hero, the player, on a decent contract, yes, he's going to be a player that makes too much money. I don't know what his exact contract is. I don't have the details on me, but I would rather have the idea and have the potential of a number one pick with one of these European guys, Alex Sarr, or the other French guy. I haven't been able to learn how to pronounce his name yet, so I'm not going to butcher it. Even Rob Dillingham, who could get hot at any moment. I would rather take the flyer on them than pay Tyler Hero $40+ million.
I agree. The one thing I agree with you. My one other little defense here, my zag, Hawks need wings bad. True. And if you're thinking of like an organizational thing from the Hawks, and you're like, if we're trying to keep Trey, and if we're like, let's reload this thing, Tyler Hero might be a guy you'd have a long meeting about it, and you'd be like, do we want to upgrade our wings right now? But I'm with you with everything you said.
Tyler Hero in Atlanta is dangerous for him. But yeah, as a fit, I would. But then when you consider the contract and everything I would say no. But as a fit and as a player, 100%.
I agree. All right, this one kind of in the same vein here, but Jaime Jaquez.
Oh, I had him on my list. I think I'm taking Jaquez. I think if you slot Jaime Jaquez in this draft right now, you said, hey, you get put into this NBA draft, he's going 1-1.
You think so?
Wouldn't he?
Man, what's his ceiling? What's his realistic ceiling? Jaime Jaquez. Like, he's a good player, but he'll never be like, his ceiling's like a good role player. He'll never be the top 3 guy on a championship team. And so, do you take the chance with number one?
He's so young.
He's so young. Obviously, this contract's great, tons of value with the young guy, but it's Jaime Jaquez. Like, he's shown flashes that he can just be a gritty Heat player, but he's never going to be amazing.
Yeah, let me ask you: would you rather have the number one pick this year or Jaime Jaquez?
Dude, I think. Dude, it's a tough one. I think
it's super tough.
I would just if I was like roll. I think I'd roll the dice. I think I would.
with the number one pick.
Yeah. I wouldn't be mad if I got overruled by someone who was like, no, we want bigger one behind me. I'd be like, all right, I would have got number one, but fine. Let's see what we got with him because that's a really good one.
I think I would lean towards Jaime Jaquez, but it would be a long conversation. All right, give me your next one.
All right. This one may be a little easier, but Desmond Bane.
I think I take a swing. I like Desmond Bane. I think he's a great player. I think he's been injured a lot. I think I take a swing.
Really? I think he's the best I've listed so far, other than my obvious ones.
I also have it. I feel like I feel like the NBA has forgotten the Memphis Grizzlies are actually a good team.
Yeah.
Because you're like,
exactly.
wait, the Memphis Grizzlies should be in the playoffs. They should be like a 3 seed in the playoffs. But what? I forget. Like you forget they exist at this point. And then next year you're gonna be like, if like Ja Morant actually comes back healthy and is playing well, not suspended, and Desmond Bane's healthy and Jackson, and you're like, oh yeah, they are a top 4 team in the West. What the crap?
Exactly.
Man, Desmond Bane or the number 1 pick. Man, maybe you're right. I think I might take Desmond Bane.
It's tough. It's tough.
Actually, I think I would take Desmond Bane.
I think I would too. Yeah.
I think I would.
I think that's kind of the line. I got a few here, and then you could go. I'll just quick fire. Nas Reed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Darius Garland.
Yeah.
You taking Garland?
100%.
And then I did this kind of for you. LaMelo Ball.
F you. Yes, I'm taking LaMelo. Even with the super mega extension with terrible ankles, I'm still taking LaMelo. I still believe.
All right.
I'm still in the Melo camp. My Melo stock is down like Big Baller brand, but we'll be back. We'll be back. Big ballers don't actually die, dude.
Don't sell.
Big Baller brands forever. All right, here's my list. Here we go. Would you rather have the number 1 overall pick or have R.J. Barrett on his current deal making $30 million a year?
Number 1 overall pick. That's not very hard for me. Sorry, RJ. I'm taking a swing. I know who RJ is. I know he can score 30 randomly once or twice a year, but I'm taking a swing. I'm seeing what I can get now in Alex Sarr or someone else to see if they're special.
I agree. And especially on $30 million a year for R.J. Barrett. I know the cap's going up and everything, but I would rather take the chance on a cheaper guy that could have maybe some superstar potential. But, yeah, it feels like we kind of know what R.J. Barrett is, even though he's still a pretty young player. He's like 24, 25, so he's still pretty young. Let's move on. I think this is the ultimate baseline right here. This is my favorite one I brought out. Would you rather have the number 1 pick in this year's NBA draft or Austin Reeves?
That is baseline, dude. Holy cow. Oh, okay. I'm looking at this from the Hawks.
He makes $14 million a year, so he's on a great deal.
If I'm the Hawks, I think I'm taking Austin Reeves, right?
I don't know, man.
Because
I don't know. That's so tough. I really like Austin Reeves. He's an awesome player. Has legit playoff experience. He's been on
value.
Teams. He's been in big games. Great value contract. He can play a lot of positions on the floor. He can bring the ball up. He can shoot. He can do a lot of things for you. But then you're like, ooh, am I missing out on a potential guy? I think I would take Austin Reeves over the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, I'd be happy because if Austin Reeves, your thing with Jaime, like if Austin Reeves in this draft, he goes 1-1, right? Yeah. That's a good one though.
Derek Lively, currently on the rookie deal. We see what he is on the Mavs.
Derek Lively's that one's tough because Alex Sarr is a center and he's probably going number 1.
I saw this one on Twitter and Mavs Twitter, and so I still
really?
on Mavs Twitter. But
I would. Sorry, I'll go quick. I'm taking Derek Lively. Just because there's a lot of value in knowing what you already have, right? And so if I like what he's pretty much almost a double every night, right? So can't go wrong there. Is Alex Sarr that much better? No, I'll take Derek Lively.
I think I take Derek Lively too, especially team rookie deal. Also, like if you're the Hawks and we're doing this scenario with the Hawks, he's a dream fit with Trae Young.
Oh,
he's a dream fit with any ball-dominant point guard that's willing to pass the ball because he can just rim run the whole game, and he's not going to do something stupid. Like he actually is a sneaky good passer. He'll make that pick where the guy will get trapped, then he gets the ball at the top of the key, and he swings it to the corners very well. He He has a little JaVale McGee in him, like I said before. He's got a little JaVale McGee in his game, but he's athletic as all get out, an amazing shot blocker. I like Derek Lively a lot. I think I would take Derek Lively.
Yeah, that might be, if people might really disagree with us on that. That might be our most controversial one. But I like Derek Lively. What can I have nothing. I just like him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real quick, I'll try and speed run through some of these. Jordan Clarkson.
I'm taking number 1. Jordan Clarkson's getting old, paying a lot of money. Yeah.
Yep, I'm taking number 1 as well. Grayson Allen, he just signed a 4-year, $70 million extension. You know what Grayson Allen is. You know what he brings. I think he's around the Austin Reeves territory, maybe slightly below.
I think he's below. He fits in that Jaime. Like, that's about as good as Jaime can be. Like a little bit better than Grayson Allen. So I think I'd take number 1 over Grayson Allen. Yeah,
I think I would too. I think you can find another sharpshooter. I mean, Grayson Allen, 3-point league leader. I love Grayson Allen. I'll defend Grayson Allen to the death. Till the
you
day
should have
I
worn your
die.
jersey.
I love Grayson Allen. Yeah, it's just over there in the back closet. But yeah, I'm taking the number 1 pick over Grayson Allen.
It's a good one.
I think we already did this one. Lou Dort. Obviously, we're taking the number 1 pick, right?
Yeah, I haven't liked what I've seen from Dort this playoffs. Yeah,
Okay.
number 1 pick.
We already did Jaime Jaquez. Last 3 I had Mark Williams on the Hornets.
Taking the number 1 pick.
You haven't watched Mark Williams then. Mark Williams is legit good.
I believe you.
I'm not kidding. If I knew he was guaranteed to be healthy, I would take Mark Williams over the number 1 pick this year. I'm not kidding. But his spine is made of jelly, so I just don't know if I can, I would have to accept the number 1 pick.
Okay. I like that one.
I'm still taking Mark Williams though if he's healthy. Jalen Duren.
Oh man, this is getting tough. You just kind of know what you have in Duren.
Yep.
But he's just not exciting enough for me. Sometimes, I'm probably being a little inconsistent here. I'm doing number 1. Like
Yeah.
I said I like Lively because I like what I got, but now it's Jalen Duren, and I'm like, I want to risk it. I don't know why.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it's just because he's on the Pistons, and you're like, yeah, I don't know. But if Duren was doing this, if he was doing the same stuff on the Mavs, you're like, give me him. Yeah, I like him. He's a winning player. You're like, no, he's just on a better team, on a worse
Right.
team.
Right.
Last 2, Brandon Pajimski.
I'm taking number 1 pick. I like Pods.
He
can be a good role player, but that's it for him. I'm taking number 1.
Shout out AirPods. AirPods, because he looks, and it's not because his last name Pods or whatever. I guess that works, and he can't really jump that high or whatever. It's more so he looks like the kid you play pickup basketball with that has AirPods in.
Where's the AirPods? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Anyhow, last one. I think this is also a very tricky one. All of these have been fairly tricky, but would you rather have the number 1 overall pick or Malik Monk?
Malik Monk's about to get a lot of money.
A lot of money.
A lot of money. You know what? If you're the Hawks and you're like, we can get Malik Monk, assume like he's gonna be a free agent, so this doesn't exactly work. But I would take Malik Monk over the number 1 overall pick because I think that's a win now move, which I don't know if the Hawks want to do that, but we know you have Malik Monk, and it's pretty exciting. Pretty exciting. So yeah, go on, Malik.
I think I would take Malik Monk as well. That was a tough exercise.
That was fun though. I love it.
Very tough. Yeah, that was great. Anything else before we go?
No, except that Boston's back, baby. Best fourth quarter I've seen them play.
Best fourth quarter, yeah. Boston fans get everything. Boston sports fans. Boston teams are always relevant. Blah, blah. They're probably going to come back and beat the Florida Panthers in the NHL. The Celtics are probably going to win the final. They're probably going to win a Stanley Cup and an NBA Finals this year. Drake May's probably going to be the next best quarterback in the history of football. Yeah, everything just turns up Boston. Boston.
Here's
what you want to hear. Is that what you want to hear?
Yeah, no, that was a great segment. Bet the Patriots over on wins. That is free money.
And that'll do it from us today. We are brought to you by SeatGeek. Download the SeatGeek app or go to SeatGeek.com. Also call a 1-800-GAMBLER if you have a gambling problem. That's 1-800-GAMBLER in almost every state. Do not bet the Patriots to make the playoffs. That is
Bet
a
the
horrific
Patriots.
bet. That is we're nope. We are
The
brought
odds
to you
are
by SeatGeek.
amazing.
Download the SeatGeek app or go to SeatGeek.com. Use code CarterCast. $20 off your first purchase. A $50 minimum purchase required. Terms and conditions to apply. $20 off. Use code CarterCast. KARTERKAST at SeatGeek.com today. Follow us on Twitter at Chase_Roger0. I know Connor wasn't here today, but follow him on Twitter at Connor_Sparrow, at CarterV8, at CarterCast on all social media. Subscribe, like, do what you can do to help out on the YouTube. Subscribe. Let's get to 1K before the end of the NBA playoffs. Rate, review, Apple, on Spotify, wherever you're listening. Thank you so much for listening. We will be back Sunday night. Pod will be out late Sunday night, early Monday morning after the Game 7s, depending on what time. Whenever after the games, we're going to start recording. Bam, it'll be up for you, ready the next morning, Monday morning. We'll be back. Very excited for that. We get some Game 7s. Hopefully, the Pacers pulled out. We get 2 Game 7s. So, and we'll be back on Monday morning, and we'll see y'all then. Bye-bye.